Good evening, a warm welcome to State of Business RTV's Primetime Business News Bulletin with me, Rukshi Panditaratna. Let's take a look at the headlines first. Sri Lanka eligible to export to EU with zero duty from Friday, and PUCSL calls public views on CEB's least cost long-term generation expansion plan. And today on Top Stories, Sri Lanka will be able to export to the European Union with GSP Plus trade concessions beginning from this Friday, the EU envoy in Sri Lanka said. The EU ambassador to Sri Lanka, Tung Lai Mage, said the removal of the duties will be conditional on continued commitment to sustainable development, human rights and good governance. The removal of import duties will benefit the economy in excess of 300 million euros a year.
Sri Lanka will regain GSP Plus in a few days. When exactly? Well, now that we have gone through the deadline of the 15th of May, which was the deadline that allowed still theoretically either the European Parliament or indeed the Council of Ministers of the EU to object to Sri Lanka being able to regain GSP Plus. There will be, in a couple of days, I was told it would be taking place on the 18th of May, Thursday, the publication in the official journal of the decision of the Commission granting back GSP Plus to Sri Lanka. This means that one day after the publication, on Friday the 19th, the exports from Sri Lankan manufacturers will be allowed to enter into the European Union without any customs duties. This is a very good news. It's a very good news because it's a huge incentive that will be created to increase Sri Lankan exports to the EU.
The EU said it will work closely with the government and non-government organizations to rigorously monitor progress in implementing the international conventions. If Sri Lanka continues to make the necessary progress, then the country has the chance to benefit from the scheme until it achieves upper middle income country status for 3 consecutive years. On current trends, that should mean that Sri Lanka will benefit from GSP Plus until at least 2021. EU is considered as Sri Lanka's biggest export market, accounting for nearly 1/3 of Sri Lanka's global exports.
We have seen a number of drafts, but what I wish to say is that the main responsibility lies in the hands of the government and of the parliament, ultimately, to produce a piece of legislation that is in full conformity with the international standards. That's the objective, and we will be monitoring and looking at this further in the coming weeks and months. There's a misunderstanding sometimes from the part of the public opinion of what is the purpose of the GSP Plus. The GSP Plus is not being granted to governments because they are in full compliance with everything in relation to the international conventions. This would mean that no country on earth would get GSP Plus. And by the way, if you look at certain elements of compliances in terms of international conventions, certain member states of the European Union could also be criticized. So it's not something that we are addressing throughout the world without looking at what we can improve also. It's a process, and the process is there to, in compensation of advantages that we give in trade areas, to encourage governments towards reforms that will bring a better protection to their people in terms of human rights, in terms of labor rights, and all the different rights that I mentioned before.
Speaking further, the EU ambassador said that they will be working closely with the government to support the small and medium enterprise sector to achieve the standard required to export to the European market.
It is true that the very large proportion of companies in Sri Lanka are small and medium enterprises. And this could be a difficulty for them to overcome a certain number of technical obstacles. I'm not speaking of the tariffs, but I'm speaking of the standards that are in place in Europe to protect, I would say, the consumer, the European consumer. So what did we do? In order to allow Sri Lanka to gain the full benefit of GSP Plus, we have been launching, together with the government, and the project was in fact launched by your Prime Minister a couple of weeks ago, a project, an ambitious project to support small and medium enterprises in Sri Lanka. It's a project of 8 million euros worth that will last for 5 years. The main aim of the project is to provide services to small and medium enterprises in the country who would have difficulties to reach the standards of the European Union.
Minister Harin Fernando expressed views on renewal of GSP Plus for Sri Lanka at a media conference in Kotte today.
අද මේ GSP සහනය නිසා යුරෝපීය සංගමයේ තීරු බදු වලින් 66ක් මේ සහනය නිසා විශාල අවස්ථාවක් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ ව්‍යාපාර ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨයට ලැබෙනවා. බිලියන වලින් ගත්තොත් යුරෝ බිලියන 4ක් දක්වා වෙළඳපොළක් එහෙම නැත්නම් ආර්ථිකයක් මේ රට අලුතෙන් එකතු වෙනවා. එහෙම නැත්නම් මිලියන වලින් ගත්තොත් යුරෝ මිලියන 450කට වැඩි ප්‍රමාණයක් මේ තුලින් අපේ රට අලුත් ආර්ථිකයක් එකතු වෙනවා. පහුගිය කාලේ අපිට මේක නැතිවීම තුල බංග්ලාදේශයට වියට්නාමයට මේ සිබුණු සම්පූර්ණ අපිට තිබුණු අයිතීන් යන්නට පටන් ගත්තා. දැන් අපිට හොඳ තරංගකාරීත්වයක් දෙන්න පුළුවන්. අපිට මේකෙදි මතක තියාගන්න මේකේ සම්පූර්ණ වශයෙන් මේ ගාමන්ස් විතරක් නෙමෙයි, ඇඟලුම් විතරක් නෙමෙයි, soft toys, එළවලු, ornamental fish, bicycle, කුරුඳු මේ සියලු වෙළඳපොළ අලුත් වෙළඳපොළ විශාල ප්‍රමාණයක් GSP Plus සහනය තුල අලුත් අපනයන වෙළඳපොළයන් රාශියක් මේ රට තුල නිර්මාණය වීමක් ඇති වෙනවා.
Let's take a look at more news after this break. Welcome back. Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka recently opened the path for public to comment on the least cost long-term generation expansion plan prepared by Ceylon Electricity Board. It was compiled based on the results of the latest electricity expansion planning studies conducted by the CEB for the planning period of 2018-2037. The expansion plan aims to cater the forecasted demand growth by identifying the least cost plant addition sequence based on the most sustainable technology to avoid electricity shortfalls in the country. The plan has been submitted to PUCSL for the approval. The Sri Lankan power system had a total installed capacity of approximately 4,018 megawatts by the end of the year 2016, with a total dispatchable capacity of 3,538 megawatts, including non-dispatchable plants of capacity 516 megawatts owned by private sector developers. The generation demand is expected to grow 5.9% per annum from 2018 to 2022, while in addition the peak demand is expected to grow at 5.1% per annum. From 2018 to 2037, Sri Lanka plans to add 8,361 megawatts of new additions, including the committed power plants, to the national grid in the period of 20 years from 2018. The total investment required for implementing the 2018-2037 plan in the next 20 years is approximately $14.56 billion. The public are invited to send their views on the generation plan to the PUCSL on or before 6th of June. Selinco Life opened La Serena, Sri Lanka's first retirement resort on the beach of Uswatakeyawa for active retirees. The opening ceremony of the fully serviced 44-unit resort was held today.
La Serena is the second pioneering, fully owned subsidiary of the Selinco Life. The resort comprises of self-contained, fully furnished and serviced living units, which will be offered on short or long-term rent to active retirees.
We have identified 3 segments. The first segment is senior Sri Lankans living in Sri Lanka. I know at one time we thought that this is not a problem for the wealthy. Well, we had enough, they have enough money, they have their houses, they have their servants. So why worry about independent living? But I can assure you, I'm giving you feedback by one such senior elder who told me very clearly, I am sick and tired of expecting servants to look after me. I'm bending over backwards, but they are so unreliable. So they'd rather rent out their homes and come to a location where all this will be looked after.
Let's take a look at stocks after this break. Welcome back. The trading at the Colombo Stock Exchange ended in a positive note today. The all-share price index gained 32.46 points to close at 6,692.33, and S&P SL 20 index gained by 5.48 points to close the session at 3,841.92. The turnover was 1.1 billion rupees and 96.3 million shares were traded. Let's take a look at today's forex rates. Thank you for watching State of Business. See you tomorrow at the same time. Till then, take care. Good night.